Yeah, I'm ready when you are.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome today. We're going to give it a couple minutes to let people join. But with the holidays coming up, if anybody has any exciting things that they're looking forward to this holiday season, no matter what you're celebrating, some of us are just celebrating that we've made it through 2024. So congratulations, everyone, if that's what you're celebrating this year. But I'd love to hear what everyone has going on, or if you have any campaigns that you're really excited about wrapping this year up with. I've seen a lot of really cool stuff from different organizations this year, so excited to wrap things up, but looking forward to 2025. Looks like numbers are climbing pretty quick. Oh, somebody's grandfather is turning 100. Congratulations to your grandfather. That is quite the feat. Well, awesome. We've given it a minute. I want to make sure we have enough time to get through all of our content today, so we'll get things started. So welcome everyone. My name is Danny Clough. I'm the channel marketing coordinator on the Qgiv by Bloomerang team. Today I'm joined by Brendan Smith from our business development team, and of course our speaker, Brian Cook from One Each Technologies, who's going to be sharing tactics for effectively marketing your nonprofit on a limited budget. Today's session is eligible for that CFRE continuing education credit. So if that applies to you, make sure you're getting that down in these last few days of 2024. A few house notes before we begin today. We are recording the webinar. So tomorrow you'll be receiving an email with a link to the recording as well as the slides from today's session. As we go through the webinar, please feel free to chat with Brendan and Brian and I as we go. Just use the chat box for that. And if you have any questions, you can put those in the Q&A area. If you have trouble with the Q&A, please add those to the chat. I'll make a note of them so we can get to them at the end of Brian's presentation. And then before we get started, if you are unfamiliar with Qgiv by Bloomerang, we are an online fundraising platform. We have solutions for all sizes of nonprofits, including year-round fundraising tools, text giving, peer-to-peer fundraising, and auction tools. If any of those sound like they could benefit your organization going into year end or in 2025, please reach out. We would love to help you raise more next year. And as a part of furthering that mission, Qgiv did join the Bloomerang team this year. We joined to offer a modern giving platform that puts relationships at the heart of fundraising. This combined solution unifies your donors' activities, giving you the power to acquire new donors, cultivate impactful relationships, and maximize the potential of your donor communities. And of course, I'm always so excited to share with you all our wonderful partner network. One of those partners, of course, being One Each Technologies. For 25 years, One Each has been serving nonprofits through building websites, hosting solutions, marketing services, and fundraising tools. Each of those services is tailored to the unique needs of each individual organization. They are wonderful to work with, so if that sounds like something that your organization needs, please reach out. They are fantastic, and I can't recommend them more. And of course, I cannot miss the opportunity to introduce our wonderful speaker today, Brian. In his role as lead account executive, Brian collaborates with clients to develop digital solutions to enhance marketing, boost donor engagement, and build brand awareness across different channels. We are so fortunate to have Brian with us today to share his expertise, so I don't want to take up any more of his time. I will let him get to the stuff you're all here to listen to.
Hello, everybody. Let me just pop over and steal the screen. All right. Hopefully everybody sees my ugly mug now. So really happy to be presenting today. As Danny mentioned, I'm the lead account executive over at One Each Technologies. This is going to be around marketing, so I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, okay, what's this account executive talking about marketing? I actually have a very extensive background in marketing, about half my career, and so from marketing intern all the way up to marketing manager and marketing director for a couple companies. I have a lot of experience to share, kind of basically on the free side, and not having to dive into like very expensive marketing tools. You definitely want to have like a baseline, and so you'd be surprised to hear the for-profits that I came from have very similar trends of nonprofits of having basically zero budget, at least until you can kind of prove something along with that. So here's just kind of a brief overview and agenda of what we're going to be going over today. Now, Definitely use the Q&A. At the end of it, if there is time, I will try to answer. I crammed a lot of information into, what I consider a short amount of time. So there is going to be a lot of information on these slides as well. It's by design. This is kind of from one of our ebooks that I've expanded on, and I do want to make sure that you aren't stressing writing down notes throughout this whole thing. So when you do get the slide deck, you do watch the recording, you're able to actually utilize it moving forward. So pretty much what we're going to be going over is like nonprofit marketing 101, how to create strategic marketing plans, assessing your current efforts, understanding your audience, building out like an editorial calendar. All of this is going to be kind of like your baseline because like I said, there's really no point of diving in and investing into like a very expensive marketing tool unless you have the basics down. I like to use analogies a lot. It's basically like, why would you go out and buy a Rolls Royce if you don't even have your license? It's kind of taking those steps at a time to make your way to that. And then there's a couple things that I'll touch on with like partnering with industry influencers, securing some earned media coverage. It may or may not apply, but everything that we'll go over should kind of apply in some ways to your organization and what you're doing. So diving right in, I'm going to start off by going over auditing your current efforts. A lot of people kind of skip this step and they just dive in and look at things from abroad and say, I think LinkedIn's doing great. I think our posts on X and Facebook are doing great. Our email marketing's going out once a quarter, should be fine. We really need to dive in and get the data points. So audit your social media, look at the different platforms, the engagement you have, try to understand your audience there. Email marketing, if you aren't doing it, please do. I'll show you some stats on why you should, but also dive into the data on it and try to um, kind of expand on that and improve on it. Don't just kind of stay stagnant. And then, of course, website performance. You want to do the same thing with social media and email marketing. Track it, try to improve upon it, and then do an audit of what's working, what's not. Do an assessment of the return on investment that you have with your campaign. So if you do want to go to the board and try to make the case for getting additional funding for it, you have the data to back it up. So starting with social media and kind of what a social media audit is, it involves a thorough review of your organization's social media presence. So you're going to evaluate the performance metrics, consistency, look for opportunities to where you can improve on your business objectives. Basically, you want to get a better understanding of your social media's impact directly on your goals. So if your goals are to increase donations, you need to step back and look to see how your social media is impacting that, just like we will with email marketing and your website traffic. It's going to be a great way to maintain your audience engagement, and you want to have quality donor and community care. So you don't want quantity. And I'll mention this a couple times as well. Quantity does not translate to quality. If you post 10 times a day, it's not going to be as good as one quality post a week. And then also identify new opportunities for growth and spread brand awareness, just depending on which platform is going to be working best for you. But at the end of the day, it's just to dig in and evaluate what's working. Try to use that data to make your other platforms better as well. And I promise it's simple. I should preface that, my marketing career, I didn't have a marketing degree heading into all this. It's all self-learned, so it's really not rocket science. Anybody can really learn how to do it. So there's plenty of free downloadable spreadsheets that you can utilize to kind of create your own like social media audit template. I recommend this one that's by Hootsuite just because it already has the main ones built out into it. It has all the information that you're going to want to track and that you can build on. And then of course it's in a spreadsheet so you can add on to it. Another recommendation that I'm going to say is I'm gonna pull up an editorial calendar a little bit later in this presentation. I'd recommend combining it into this. Have a single hub for everything as far as your marketing is concerned. just because if there's turnover rate, if you have change in your marketing personnel or change of roles, it's easily translated over, it's easily handed over. You aren't dealing with one person that has the social media auditing and then one person that has the editorial calendar, and then all of a sudden one of those disappears. Um, all right, so diving into the basics of kind of how to conduct a social media audit. So the first thing you want to do is inventory all your existing profiles, list all your active and inactive accounts. The reason that I'm listing inactive and emphasize this is because I'm sure everybody here is either currently dealing with or previously has dealt with this of somebody setting up an account and they disappeared. So a Facebook company page that was tied to that person's personal account, they're gone. There's no way to recover it. There are ways to recover it. You want to have a list of all your inactive and active, and then of course try to recover those inactive so you have kind of consistency across the board and there's not multiple profiles out there. Now, also, while you're doing an inventory, try to track the priority platforms based on traction. If your X has 2 followers compared to your Facebook, who has 1,000, that's going to be a higher priority platform, at least initially, to try and grow with. So set specific goals for them for each platform. Define clear goals like increasing your followers, engagement, website traffic, and use metrics tied to those objectives, not hunches. I will be emphasizing I hate hearing hunches. I love seeing data backed decisions. So there's a lot of times that you'll hear, I think our LinkedIn is doing fine if we're posting once a week, or I believe we're getting good engagement on our Facebook page. I'd love to hear our Facebook followers have increased by 100 this week based on the 2 posts that we put up. So I think we need to set goals of continuing to do that to try and increase our followers. Ensure brand consistency. Primarily for me, this comes down to your primary image and then the language of your mission statement. There's so many times that I'll see inconsistencies of logos across the board where a Facebook profile doesn't match the LinkedIn profile, whether it's an older logo that hasn't been updated or it's just a completely different color scheme. Typically, it boils down to where the logo's resolution needs to be different sizes. And so people just kind of throw something up and it stays that way. Make sure it's consistent. Don't confuse your donors, volunteers, the communities you serve. Make sure that that's the same. Same thing with your mission statement and the language that's in there. Make sure that it's the exact same across the board. Analyze the performance metrics. So use the native analytics. A lot of people don't realize that each one of these social platforms has native analytics built into it. So with Facebook, you'll be able to dive in and see like great demographic info that you have. LinkedIn, you'll be able to see the different types of roles that are actually looking and engaging in your posts. So take a look at those, but also track them. Make sure that you mark those down and see if you can find patterns within that so you have a better grasp on what your audience looks like. Identify those top performing posts. So look at the engagement metrics and determine what's successful. So if you see your engagement is doubled whenever you post videos or a donation request, stick with that, run with that, and try to hone in on why that is and continue running that. Now, on social media, it's going to be different across platforms, so it's not going to work. So if videos work well on Facebook, it may not translate over to LinkedIn or X, but try it out, see what works for the different audiences. Now, this page should actually be kind of how to improve social media audits on the title instead of how to conduct. So with improving on these social media audits while you're doing this audit, use Google Analytics to track links from social activity to the website. So you'll be able to track traffic through Google Analytics, which I'll dive a little deeper into further in the presentation. But you want to make that connection that if you're seeing a huge percentage of traffic coming from your Facebook page to your site and an uptick of donations due to that, you want to focus on that social media traffic. Evaluate your audience's demographics. So again, use those native analytic tools to where you can find simple things like the age, gender, preferences, so you can help refine that message. Because if your target market is, in the 60s, 70-year-old, those are your top donors that you've identified, and then you see your audience demographic is Gen Z, you can't really put out messaging that's like, hey, you remember in 1985 when this eco disaster happened, and now we're doing cleanup to help that. You need to refine the message to your specific audience, just kind of based on the general demographics that you're viewing. Explore new platforms. Using TikTok as an example, I remember when the acquisition happened of TikTok back when it was called Musically, and you would just duet people that were singing. And if you would have told me then that this was going to be the #1 social media platform in the world from 2020 till current, I would have told you that you were absolutely insane. So keep an eye on new emerging platforms. Try them out, test them out. You never know what they're basically going to turn into. Setting new objectives. So obviously create actionable goals with a SWOT analysis. If you aren't familiar with that, you've at least probably seen one. It's like a little four square: strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats for each platform. But have actionable goals supported by data. Don't just say, hey, our LinkedIn's doing great. We need to triple that by the end of the year. I don't know what metrics that's based off. We just need to do it. That's not going to be an effective marketing strategy to implement. And then share audit results internally. So I can't stress this enough of collaborating with your team. Try to optimize cross departments and get different opinions. Early in my career, I was putting together a social media campaign. I shared it with the team, and the person that provided the best input that actually changed it was our 72-year-old CFO who didn't even have a computer at home. He was the last person in line that you would think would have an impact on that campaign, but he completely changed it with his input. So share, don't internalize. It's always good to have different opinions on things. So key benefits with social media audits, you're going to have informed decision making. Again, it's going to prevent those impulsive changes by hunches. You're going to be working based off of data to guide decisions of which platforms to focus on, what type of content performs best. Highlight your organizational impact. So it's going to reveal those key wins. So viral posts, follower growth, providing actual return on investment that you can then bring to the board. So again, if you have zero budget of trying to expand efforts or maybe bringing on a part-time employee to be a copywriter for some of this, if you actually show and prove the growth that it's having on your organization, it's kind of ammo in your back pocket that you can bring along. And then, of course, time saving. It identifies low value activities to eliminate. I'm sure a lot of people that are in here are not like marketing people. You're an executive director that is also the CTO, the CFO, everything you name it, and you wear every hat around there. You don't want to waste your time on things that aren't going to be performing well. So it'll kind of eliminate those low value activities. And then as you track data, if it starts trending back in a different direction, say those low values is starting to get traction, it'll be kind of a clear picture versus, again, just a guessing game. So shifting over to email marketing is still hands down the most effective way to reach your donors. And there's going to be data I'll be showing you that supports that of it's their preferred method of receiving updates from you, and it's kind of the preferred method of receiving donations. Now, a lot of people think it's kind of going the way of the dinosaur, just like they think snail mail and mailers are. But I kind of think the opposite direction. Look at your email system as a different type of social media and how frequently it gets checked. So you're leveraging this platform that most people are going to be checking at minimum daily. If you have their business email, they're going to be checking multiple times a day. So unless you're landing in their junk mail, they're going to see the messaging that comes out to you versus posting on social media. Me personally, I check Facebook once a month. So it's going to be hard for you to catch me on those posts versus if you send me an email, 100% of the time you're going to see it. And it's a very, very low cost option. And speaking of cost, here's a fun fact. Did you know the two largest email marketing platforms have discounted rates for nonprofits? Please make sure you're not paying full price. Constant Contact and MailChimp both have discounts for nonprofits. So take advantage of that. please also take a look at your organization for like to see if they have a partner program. Some have free tools available. I don't want to say this on recording in case I may be wrong, but just using United Ways as an example, they have an incredibly large discount via Constant Contact that's through a partner program that's been established. So look into that if you haven't already. Make sure that you aren't paying the for-profit rates. So some basic do's and don'ts for nonprofit emails. So get to the point. The average person skims emails and reads for about 8 to 9 seconds. I would argue that it's even shorter than that. There's other studies that show it's kind of 1 to 4 seconds, but primarily focus on your subject line in those first two sentences or whatever your like header image is, something that's going to be eye-catching and drag them in to look at more. And don't do long, drawn out emails. Provide brief descriptions with call to actions to get the necessary points across effectively. You want them wanting more, leave them wanting more so they actually go to your call of action and read your resources, donate, volunteer where requested. Keep it kind of short and sweet. Making donations easy. So have direct, easy, concise calls to action. So this isn't just for donations as well. Volunteers, resource downloads. Don't force extra steps. Don't make them sign up as if they're applying for a membership. Try to reduce the amount of hoops to jump through as possible. Less steps required, the better. Be upfront and visible. So people really want to know where money's being spent. So if you do have a call to action that is requesting funds, be transparent on what it's spent to. When they go to that landing page and see your Qgiv donation page, above it, you want to have like a paragraph that explains where the funds are going. There's a reason that in-kind donations are kind of on the rise with Gen Z and millennials, is because it's a tangible item that they know where it's going and what it's going to do. So make it very clear on where the money's being spent, and you're going to get better engagement and likely higher donations. Um, don't be pushy. This sounds kind of it's a given, but just don't constantly ask for donations. I know there's a couple charities that I donate to that I get emails basically. All I get is once a month an email just saying that they're required donations. Long-term donor engagement through targeted quality content is really how you're going to keep those long-term donors giving. So keep them up to date. Don't just ask for donations. Provide them information on what your organization's been doing with the donations, and then the donations will follow. Say thank you. Again, seems very given, but it really is the little things that count. If you land that donation, show your gratitude, make them a lifetime donor. This is, I hear this very consistently with animal shelters, surprisingly, that they have people that call and actually complain that they haven't been thanked. So if you aren't getting calls saying that, if you don't have a thank you set up in process, make sure that you do, that kicks out. And then again, another given. Don't turn your messaging negative. And primarily, it's not so much the verbiage, it's the tone. And a great tool of checking negative language, since we're in this new world of AI, is like ChatGPT. You can even go on and just say, what does the tone read in this? I personally use Grammarly, and you can reword things in different tones if you want it to be formal, informal. So I definitely recommend leveraging that, because anything that may come off in a negative tone could potentially hurt your new or existing donors. So a couple stats, I'm not going to dive through all of this, but there are some kind of critical ones that I do want to point out here. So 68% of nonprofits utilize email marketing, and then you can kind of see the frequency here. Um, if you are not doing email marketing, again, highly recommend you do, but 68% seems pretty low. I do know that obviously there's some organizations that are 100% federally funded and they don't really need to get out as much of newsletters, things like that. But at the same time, I think that that's fairly low, because 48% of donors actually cite email as their preferred method of updates and appeals from organizations. So second to snail mail, which is going to be mailers, but those are expensive. And then third to social media. So if you have all your eggs in one basket on social media, text messaging, phone calls, or even mailers and you aren't doing email marketing, I encourage you to kind of relook at your approach that you have. Now, 63% of nonprofits do personalized emails with a 26% more likely to open rate. And then same thing with a 202% conversion rate that's a little bit better. So instead of emails that just say, here's what these organizations, or here's what our organization's doing, here's how you can help, change it so it says, Brian, this is what the organization's doing. Brian, we could really use your help with donations. And, I'm sure that I'll be clicking on that and providing a better result to your bottom line and helping your community. Subject lines, 6 to 10 words are going to have the highest open rate. Again, I would actually shorten that down, maybe 4 to 8 words. But if you're over that 10, make sure that you cut that down. 38% of nonprofits delete their unengaged subscribers. The only reason I throw this up here is because if you don't actually go through and audit your current lists and remove people that maybe haven't responded for years or opened for years, you don't necessarily need to remove them and delete them, but potentially put them in a different style campaign. Try to re-engage them. Put them in a campaign that maybe blatantly says, we haven't heard from you in a while. Are you still interested in helping our organization? They helped you at one point. So, I mean, the worst thing that they can reply back with is, you know what, we found another organization. Maybe we decided to help more. Um, and then here's the key reason why I say if you aren't doing email marketing, please do. 35% of nonprofits that send email fundraising and 34%, email fundraising raised the amount of money they expected and 34% raised more. So 69% of those who send out fundraising emails have received the amount they expected, if not more. So please use it. 26% of donors say that email is the tool that inspires them the most to give. So 1 out of 4 of your donors are going to be inspired to give by donations. And then I just threw up an open rate here if anybody happens to know theirs off the top of their head. If you're around this, then you're pretty much on par. So, moving on from social media and email, those are driving people to your website. So basically your website's going to be the cornerstone for your digital presence. It's where you're driving everyone to see communication, engagement, the support. It is really the central hub and kind of your billboard for your organization, arguably the most valuable tool that you have. It's where you're going to be receiving your donations. It's where people are going to go and look at your credibility, your mission statements, your impact PDFs that you put out each year. Um, it's going to be where all the volunteers, the awareness, all your outreach, community engagement opportunities, it's where everything's going to be. Now, that doesn't mean that having a flashy, fancy, good-looking website means that you're in the clear. You need to make sure the navigation is correct for all of your audience. So nonprofits are in a very unique position compared to for-profits because for-profits, it's typically going to be one group with maybe different subsets that you're trying to get to buy or purchase or download something from you. With nonprofits, you're kind of broken into three most of the time. Donors and volunteers, which are typically interchangeable, but sometimes people kind of stick to each lane, which and are kind of the same. But you also need to make sure that the communities that you assist, that they're able to find the resources that they need and navigate to those, which we'll dive into how you can get a better idea of how that looks in a little bit. But you are in a very unique position. You need to look at from all angles. Just as you did with your social media and email, though, you do need to audit and optimize. It's not just setting it there and saying, hey, this looks good. You need to track everything and make sure that you can improve upon it. So some basics of understanding website metrics. For those of you that already know this, I'll try to go through this fairly quickly, but I do have some nonprofit specific stats that are tied to this that hopefully you'll find interesting. So on your website, bounce rate, that's the percentage of visitors who actually leave the site after viewing only a single page. With nonprofits, that's 60 to 70% on a bounce rate, which usually you're shooting for 40% or below, but that is extremely high. So if you are at 60 or 70%, you're on par with nonprofits, so don't beat yourself up over it, but there is definitely areas for improvement there. Um, in that regard. Conversion rate, so that's going to be the percentage of visitors who more or less complete an action that you have set up, whether it's signing up for a newsletter, completing a donation, submitting a volunteer form, or a form to download resources. It is going to wildly vary based on whatever that action is that you're requesting out of them. But an average conversion rate for donations is going to be 12%. So when you're looking at your donation stats and traffic to your donation page, 1 in 10 should be placing a donation based on this statistic. Organic traffic, that's going to be your web traffic that's generated from unpaid search results. Anyone who's going to Bing, Google, any type of search engine and finding you through a keyword. 44% of nonprofit traffic comes from that. I primarily bring this up is because that does include when they search your name. So if somebody is looking for One Each Technologies and they Google One Each, that's going towards your organic traffic. So when we do get to the portion chatting about Google Analytics, I encourage you to not just look at the organic traffic, but see if you can find the keywords that they're using. Because if you're getting a huge amount of traffic there and 90% of it is just based on searching the name of your organization, there's definitely area to improve with your SEO. Device traffic's just like it sounds. It's the difference of visitors based on mobile or tablet compared to desktop or laptop. The interesting thing with nonprofits is that it's almost 50-50, which almost every other industry is much heavier on mobile or tablet compared to desktop or laptop users. So don't discount, obviously make sure that you're mobile optimized for your site, but don't discount the desktop and laptop users because it is pretty much down the middle. And from the stats I was looking at, it seems like it's been that way for a while. So I don't expect it to change drastically over the next couple of years. So once you have those metrics identified, you want to look for areas of improvement and track and optimize for a better experience. Google Analytics is hands down the most universally known free option to use. If you don't have it set up, which most of you will, it's simple as going to analytics.google.com and then getting it onto your site. And then you'll be able to track data from then moving forward. You won't be able to look at previous data if it's not already there. Now, analytics, you don't need to do any of the certification that they provide or anything like that. They have tutorials on almost anything that you would need for basic analytics. And then there's expert walkthroughs on YouTube of almost any topic that you'd need. So these are the people that have gone through that certification. So highly recommend you dive into that. If you jump into it for the first time, you're probably going to be confused. Just look at the tutorials, look at their help section. You'll learn it as you go through. Now, a lot of Google Analytics is going to help you with a handful of things. Again, not going to dive too deep into all of these. I included a lot of information on these slides just because I want you to not have to rapidly take notes and that you can go back and this can be useful for you. But you'll be able to look at your monitor speed. That's site speed. That's typically associated with a high bounce rate. So if you have people coming to your site and leaving immediately, it could be loading speed for some of your pages. You'll be able to track all your conversions and goals through Google Analytics, so you can set up to see when a conversion happens. So if somebody navigates to your site and completes a donation, if set up properly, you'll be able to track that. You'll be able to discover backlinking opportunities. So those that aren't familiar with SEO, backlinking is actually a really good part of SEO where other organizations are actually linking to your site. It's called backlinking. And nonprofits, it's typically much higher than any for-profits just because you are going to be getting exposure out on like news sites and partner agencies and things like that. So definitely dive into those. If you see a lot of traffic coming from a source that you've never even heard of, it's worth reaching out to them. They're promoting you. There may be something mutually beneficial that you can do there outside of just the SEO. Obviously, you'll be able to identify the lowest performing and top converting pages. So you can actually look to see where the traffic is kind of dropping off, if there's a high bounce rate. If you think one of your, again, circling back to hunches, if you think one of your pages is the most compelling page, but then you look at the traffic and see that there's 2 people that have gone to it, it's probably one of 2 things. The content is not easily readable, easily viewable, or the navigation to it is terrible and people can't find it. So you can look at the data and kind of work back to try and solve some of the problems that you're seeing. Same thing goes with the high performing pages and converting pages. Take those as examples. If you're seeing a huge conversion from certain pages or resource pages, maybe the SEO is great on that, and try to rework that for your lower performing pages to increase traffic in that. And then, of course, tracking search queries so you know what people are searching for on your site. So measuring success kind of gets tricky when it boils down to social media, email marketing, website. So once you have these baseline metrics identified, then you can actually start to establish achievable goals and monitor progress. So that's everything that we've gone over is primarily to establish a baseline and move forward if you haven't done that already. If you have done that already, everything we went over is basically to try and improve those. Now, once you have the metrics and audited all your efforts, set up SMART goals. So not just general goals, goals that are very specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, realistic or relevant, and time bound. So it's clear direction for not only you, but if you have like team members that are also working alongside you. So instead of just saying, we need more donors, set a SMART goal of we aim to increase our donors by 100 within 6 months by enhancing our email campaigns. It's very specific direction on how you can engage and increase your donors. Now, if you are having trouble identifying basically what those primary goals look like, just ask yourself, what does success look like for your organization, and work it backwards on how to achieve it. Now, I know that's easier said than done, but just break large goals into smaller actionable steps. I'll use social media as an example. So if your general goal when you say what does success look like for my organization in 2025, and it's to increase engagement on your social media platforms, that's very general. Break that down to the independent social media routes to break out and say, okay, Instagram to increase social media as a whole. With Instagram, we tend to have great responses on our video posts. So we're going to increase our video post by 2 from January through August to increase the amount of engagement on Instagram. With LinkedIn, we do really well when we post PDF resources. And so take each one of those, and that all contributes to the greater goal of driving your social media. So take it from the macro to the micro level. Now, all of this is also tied to really understanding your audience. Understanding your audience, again, is very unique for nonprofits because you aren't just looking at one specific segment like you would a for-profit of who's going to buy from us. This is our target market. With a nonprofit, you have an audience of donors, volunteers, the communities that you serve. And if you're basically to this question, if your answer is name, email, phone number, potentially address, you really got your work cut out for you, and you need to dive a little bit deeper. A truly tailored nonprofit marketing requires like a very intimate understanding of your supporters, your volunteers, who you help. So conduct demographic and psychographic research. If you aren't familiar with psychographic, it's kind of like a marketing term, but it's more of the values, beliefs, interests, passions compared to demographics, which is going to be location, age, gender, very tangible things. Psychographics more of a psychological assumption in the marketing side. You're also going to want to look at like where they consume their media and content on and offline, what times of day that they're looking at, what motivates people to engage. Just using values, beliefs, and interests as an example. Now, let's just say something absurd. So, say you send out a poll and you find out that 90% of your audience is interested in or was previously a violinist, and it has nothing to do with your demographic that you were expecting. You want to try and pepper that into your marketing techniques. So that's just an obscure example, but hopefully it'll give you an idea of kind of what we're getting at here. Now, this information is basically gathered with everything that we've covered so far. Gather the data through surveys, drive them there from social media, your email marketing campaigns. Request information from long and short-term donors. So maybe take some of your top donors and just say, are you open to a 5-minute call with us? I think it'll help our organization in the long run. But please don't discount those short-term donors. There's a reason they're short-term donors. It's because they haven't been converted into long-term donors. So there's potentially something that you're missing there. If you're having a lot of people that donate once and disappear, something's missing, whether it's engagement or maybe you're just not resonating with them as well. And then use the general analytics from Google and the native analytics on social media to just gather general demographic information. It'll give you geolocations, age ranges, all things like that. When you do try to kind of get a grasp and a hold of your audience that you're looking at, I do want you to really try and focus on the why. It's a lot of people miss this. In my opinion, it's the number one most overlooked item in marketing when you're trying to get a grasp on like who your target market is, which in your case is going to be a couple different target markets. Um, Everyone knows the how that they can support your cause. So if I give $100 to your organization, it's going to do X, Y, and Z. This is going to be what the problem solves. But as an organization, it's your opportunity really to find out the why they support you. Build a strong, long-lasting relationship. Tailor your fundraising efforts accordingly once you start seeing trends on why people support, and then you're going to have a donor for life in that sense. So how to find the why? Simple as previously. Direct them to surveys. Look at your data. That's actually a great place to kind of start. Look at the pages people are on. Look at the social media engagement that or posts that get the most engagement. Highest email topics. If you send out video on email and social posts and on your website, and you're starting to see a trend that the most engaged is when we post videos on how we specifically help underprivileged youth in comparison to everything else we post, well, that's probably a why for a lot of your donors. Something is resonating with a lot of the donors or volunteers or even the community that you assist. And then again, schedule one-on-ones to try and figure it out. And then log feedback at events. I can't tell you how many events I've been to. My wife personally is a therapist and specializes in eating disorders, so we do go to NATA walks and we actually go to these events, and she's kind of knows the people that put it on. And I haven't once been asked or seen anybody ask, why did you decide to come to our event? In my opinion, the people that are at those events are kind of the most valuable people that you have in your community because they aren't just somebody behind a computer that is providing, monetary support or, everything that really does truly matter, but they actually got in a car and drove to your event. So log feedback at events, try to have some type of like survey system in place. It would be great to do if you don't already. Some common whys, personal connection. So if I work, my company is partners with your organization, and we do an employee drive. That's going to be more of a personal connection, personal experience. Say you help transitional housing. Maybe your organization is like puts on like a battered women's shelter or something along those lines to help. Maybe that was a personal experience previously that actually resonates with them. Community and social impact. So if you're actually helping the underprivileged youth of the schools that's in that person's direct vicinity, that'll be social impact. Emotional fulfillment. That's going to be 90% of people that do donate. Everyone does donate for a reason, but at the same time, everyone does feel the warm and fuzzies when they do donate. So that's going to be up there. And then also social recognition. So that's something that typically you'll easily find via a survey. But if you reach out to your donors and engage them and say, would you, by chance, would it make a difference if anytime you volunteer, anytime you donate, we kind of put your first name, last initial as a little thank you in our newsletter at the end of it each month? And if it's a resounding yes, then I would suggest that you implement that into your newsletter or potentially put it on a landing page. So Don't be afraid to ask. They support your organization, should be more than happy to help. They aren't going to kind of kick you to the curb and tell you that they don't care. These people care about you. They want to help you improve. Now, so now that you've established your audience, you want to consider doing something that's probably going to sound absolutely insane. Make fictional people. Make donation Dave, volunteer Vicky, in need Nancy. Create fictional personas based off of all the data that you've put together. They're marketing personas. They're also called buyer personas if you want to dive a little bit deeper into these. And basically, you create these characters that behave like your target donors, volunteers, those in need, and it helps you walk through and find their motivation, their preferences, and pain points on not only how they're going to engage with like your social media and your email marketing, but primarily on your website. So I can go to my site and I can be donation Dave. And I can navigate through, okay, I found the resources that I want on what this helps in the donation process. I know exactly how to donate. And that was very simple for donation Dave. But if I come in as volunteer Vicky and I can't figure out where to sign up and I have zero intention of providing money, but I want to provide my time, then that's not good. We need to optimize that. Same thing for, in need Nancy. You want to go in and make sure that those resources are very easy to find because at the end of the day, that's who you're catering to try and assist. You want to make sure those resources are easily available. So I'm not going to read through this entire thing, but just this first paragraph really embodies it. SurveyMonkey did a great job of really describing why this matters and from like kind of a personal day-to-day perspective. So if you're planning a camping trip with three friends to get each friend on board with your plan, you need to take three different approaches. With one friend, you share a picture of the beautiful location you've picked out. Another, it's the short walk from the campsite. And then the third, you discuss many opportunities to take photos and videos. So in any aspect, substitute camping trip, substitute with any activity, friends with family or employees or coworkers. Everyone's had to do this. In order to get everybody on board and everybody happy, you need to take different approaches and emphasize different aspects to appeal to those different people. There's no reason you shouldn't look at those that you serve, those that you need donations from, and those that help you by volunteer their time the same way. You need to approach them the same way to walk you through the process of this is how you can donate money and this is how it's going to help. This is how you can donate your time, and this is what is going to be expected after you submit the volunteer form. Build out a 12-month editorial calendar. Once you have all of this, a little planning goes a long way. So strategic planning is going to be your key to success. Once you have all the data, information that you're planning on doing, put it together in a calendar. Now, we're at the tail end of 2024. I highly recommend everybody does this for 2025 if you don't already do it. And I do want to preface it with you don't have to put the topics together, you don't have to put the content together, just schedule your frequency. So with that 12-month editorial calendar where you're going to put in blog topics, if you go, I want to blog twice a week, I want to post to social media 3 times per month, just go in and put them in the dates, fill in the content later. Focus on the first 2 months and then build it out. Just get the baseline there before 2025 starts, and I promise you, you'll be off to a better start than a lot of other organizations. And here's the kicker why. Nonprofits with strategic plans have shown to raise 50% more funds. So if you aren't doing it currently, try to think that you could potentially double the funds that you're getting from all of these avenues. So little planning does go a very, very long way. The link got cut off. Hopefully it'll be here when the slide deck comes out, but there's plenty of free editorial calendars out there. I like this one from HubSpot. If the link's not there, just Google HubSpot editorial calendar. They have it in one of their blogs. It's very simple. It's in a spreadsheet. You can take this tab and actually plug it over into the social media auditing or marketing file, if you will. And it even has a little section for target personas already built into that. So it should cover everything that we went over, and it's a great starting point, and you can add columns as needed. So enhancing your email marketing is basically one of the best ways to grow. basically don't potential donors, potential volunteers, and then even potential people in the communities that you help is lead magnets. Now, if you aren't familiar with the term lead magnet, it's basically offering resources that are designed to draw in people to provide you their information. So, um, more or less, I'm sure everyone's done it. I mean, for example, our ebook is going to be kind of a lead magnet. It's guides, tip sheets, infographics, exclusive contact in exchange for email address. Now, I do want to stress that it is not just to obtain their information, to bombard them with newsletters trying to get donations. It is a great opportunity to educate and inspire your audience. So it's going to increase engagement if you're getting people, through social posts or email marketing to go and fill this out. But at the same time, you want to provide something that is useful based on your organization. So, for example, an animal shelter, you could do a new pet adoption checklist. Once you have their email, you should have an email marketing automation set up with Constant Contact or MailChimp to where it just plops them in and they receive a follow-up string of emails that keeps them engaged. Because if somebody downloads a new pet adoption checklist, they're on the cusp of helping your shelter by adopting a dog. So you want to keep them up to date on basically outside of that checklist. So the puppy checklist or the new pet adoption checklist. There's also a did you know, maybe how to pet safe proof your apartment or your house. News and updates, new animals that have come through. Keep them engaged, and then they'll come and assist you. Not going to go through all of these. There's some examples of lead magnets that you can look at. A couple things to point out, just because a lot of these are pretty standard with like infographics, podcasts. But for those that maybe work with like community centers or help with like underprivileged youth, things like that, or helping families, arts and crafts tutorials, games and puzzles, if you can just have one of those with your logo on it as a downloadable, that's something that, you could have the information of somebody that could potentially need your help. So just throwing that out there as an example of kind of thinking outside the box. Now, don't just stop at email marketing. Try to leverage this on your social media as well. So focus on 1 to 2 platforms where your audience is very active. For example, just using that help assisting families, for example, the puzzles, you're probably not going to want to start with that on Instagram or TikTok because you want to target the family level. So maybe you tried that on Facebook. But if you are going after Gen Z or millennials, then you're going to want to really go after maybe Instagram and TikTok, see how that works out. When you do make these posts, don't just give away the farm. Don't have everything right there easily downloadable. If it's a video or a podcast, put up a 10-second video. If it's an infographic or a template, put it up with a watermark on it so they need to actually go and download it from you. So lead them to that landing page and then just social media across the board. Don't just post, reply to the comments, share any user and generated content. Sometimes you'll see somebody says, "Hey, I took this and I made my own version of it." You have no idea what reach that could potentially have if you share that and say, "Hey, one of our followers created this." They're going to tell everybody that they know about it. So try to participate in the conversations instead of just posting. Now, if you do struggle with posting, there are free social media scheduling tools. So Buffer, CoSchedule, to where you can go in and like say, sit down at the beginning of the month and plan out the remainder of the month and when they go out. Hootsuite doesn't have a free version anymore, but they do have free social media tools. So you can do quality posts. And I will say this, quality always trumps quantity any day of the week. So you don't want to be posting at a crazy rate without putting thought into it. Try to have quality, thoughtful posts, and then the frequency will pick up from there. So last couple of things. So pairing with industry influencers. So influencer marketing really isn't just for big brands. It's super effective for nonprofits. Now, don't just think of kind of industry influencers. Like you're not going after Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Of course, if you can get him, that'd be great. You'd have access to millions of people. but try starting with influencers who really share your mission and participate in like a similar industry. Start at the local level. See if you can find like if you deal with food insecurity, try to find a local food blogger that may kind of be a perfect fit for your nonprofit. With these relationships, it is going to be mutually beneficial. They will do it out of the kindness of their heart, but they do want a little bit of that as exposure as well. So when you go to them, come up with partnership ideas that are mutually beneficial. So co-hosting webinars, collaborating in social media contests, feature them in your newsletter anytime that they're going to be posting about you, things like that. Fairly simple, but just also keep in mind that as you're looking through, if you're looking and say, hey, you know what, they only have like 2,000 followers, it's not that huge of an audience. Circling back to quantity over quality, it's about the engagement and shared purpose. So if that person's audience is 1,000 compared to somebody who has an audience of 100,000 that cannot relate to your organization at all, I'll take that 1,000 any day of the week. So don't discredit about kind of new and emerging people, especially because if your promotion brings them to that next level, they're going to be bringing you with them. So just like so shared media is going to be kind of press coverage. If you aren't already involved in this, which a lot typically are, whether it's just kind of little news segments, things like that, try to get more involved with this. Start by searching out journalists that align with the topics, just like you would for an influencer. So if you work with underprivileged youth, look for journalists who cover school programs, programs that assist children, things along those lines. And then the kind of difference between this and influencer marketing is going to be pitched to make it mutually beneficial, but also try to not necessarily bump up their ego, but reference their past work and how it's relevant to why they should be assisting you, but also come ready to kind of serve it on a platter to them, make their job easier, give them quotes, give them photos, compelling stories, anything that'll make it a lot easier for them to put together an article or a news segment type thing. And then, of course, offer to promote it across all your platforms. If it's social media, specifically try and focus ones that you see them trending more on. So if they're very active on X, try to focus on that when you approach them with these ideas. Um, okay. And all right, right at time. Perfect. So, and remember, keep it simple. It's not rocket science. Just kind of go with your gut on a lot of this, but hopefully you took a lot out of that. This is going to be the way that you can contact me. In that regard, I guess I'll hand it over to Danny for here because I know we only have a couple minutes left for any Q of A that's potentially there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna launch a poll really quick for everybody. So if
Oh,
you
perfect.
want to opt in to receive communication from Brian and the team at One Each, indicate that there. And if we don't get to your questions today, Brian's contact information is on the slide. So please keep track of those questions, send them over to Brian. I know their team would be super happy to.
Yes. I'm more than happy to help. I'm very easy to get a hold of. That phone number on there is actually my work cell number. So if you prefer text, you could even text. But yeah, if I can't get to these questions all today, please email me. I'll take it from there. Or that link in there has like a submission form.
Perfect. I'll kick us right off with one that I saw a few different variations of. So how many emails is too many emails? What's the ideal frequency? And does Giving Tuesday and year-end season change that?
Um, so let me see if I can go back to this slide to show you. It is going to vary. Basically, everything is going to vary. Where is the stats? You can see some of these had a frequency of daily. So 2% of nonprofits that participated in this poll, oops, let's go back to this one. Send it daily. I would say monthly is good for newsletters, but it really depends on your audience. And that's something that you can also, when you're trying to understand your audience, I would highly recommend including that in your survey. How often would you like to hear from us? Because you don't want them to unsubscribe. You don't want to overdo it, but you also don't want to underdo it. I say good rule of thumb is once a month. Personally, I don't like to do more than bi-weekly, but it again, it kind of really varies. So hopefully that answered your question. If you want to connect with me and pick my brain on that for your specific organization, please reach out to me.
I saw another question. You went over the different personas. How many of those personas should you be evaluating?
As many as you'd like. I know, again, kind of general open-ended answer, but I would say for most nonprofits, you're going to want to have at least three. Your donors, your volunteers, and then the community that you assist. Now, if you assist multiple types of different communities, so like if you're an area agency on aging, but you also have Meals on Wheels tied to that, you're probably going to have two kind of different routes to go. If you're a YMCA, you're probably going to have like your children's programs that you're going to be looking at how to navigate to that, and then you're going to have people that are just getting engaged for like the weekly pickup basketball game kind of thing. So you're going to want to look at those different, and that's the whole purpose of it, is to kind of look at it from different angles.
Absolutely. As a fellow marketer, I love this question because I think we're all trying to answer it. How do you combat the algorithm? Do you have
There's
any tips for that one?
no fighting it. Um, No, I really don't. Danny, can you weigh in on any of this? I can't specifically for that. And because algorithm's going to change, like every platform is a completely different algorithm.
Yeah, even I'm different platforms like Google Analytics, they change how they handle things every so often. And then our own marketing team on the Qgiv side, we have to struggle to figure out what is the best thing for this algorithm. And it's a lot of testing. It's, what types of posts are working well for us. Sometimes video content will go through phases where we find that video content performs incredibly well. And then algorithm changes and we have to try something new. So unfortunately, we're at the hands of the internet gods on that one.
Yeah, testing and tracking, and yeah, there's really no way to beat Google. The second I stepped out of marketing and somebody asked my advice on SEO, and I was like not even a year out of it, I was like, I have no clue. I don't know how it functions this year.
Yeah. Well, we're a minute over, and I know people, this is a busy time of year. So we'll wrap things up. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today, for taking time out of your schedule at this time of year. Brian, thank you so much for your very thorough presentation. I know a lot of people in the chat were saying how helpful it was, and it was really
Oh,
impressive.
good.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Perfect. I'm glad it wasn't too much. I know I crammed a lot into a little.
Well, fantastic. Again, everybody, I'll encourage you to reach out to Brian with any of those questions. I know we didn't get to all of them. I'm so sorry about that. But thank you again, everyone, for being here. Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Bye.